Hello everyone. Well, I thought it was about time for another Slouchy Beanie, and here it is. This particular video is great for any crochet beginners out there, as I'll guide you through in detail how to crochet all the stitches, the colour changes, and at a slow pace too. So if you've always wanted to crochet a beanie, I've got you covered with this video. Yes, you can do it. I've made mine in a super slouchy length, but I will guide you on how to make it shorter if you wanted to. Please like and comment if you can. It really helps my channel and it's growing steadily thanks to you guys. Anyway, let's get to crocheting this beanie. So for this beanie, you'll need a selection of different colour yarns that you like. I've gone for more of a warm theme. There are 7 colours here, and this is a double knit weight yarn. You will also need a 5.0 millimeter crochet hook size, a tape measure, some stitch markers are always helpful, a darning needle, a flat darning needle to sew in your ends, and a pair of scissors. If you don't have crafting scissors, a pair of kitchen scissors will do just fine. Okay, let's get started. So to start, pick the colour that you want the ribbing of your hat to be. And I've picked the green colour. So let's get started. So we're going to start with a slip knot. There we go. And we're going to make a chain of 8 plus 1. So there's 8, and that will be the width of your ribbing. Then we're going to add one more chain, and that is your turning chain. It doesn't count as a stitch, it just helps when you're turning your work around. So for row 1, we're going to place a single crochet into the second chain from the hook. So if you count, don't count the one that's on the hook, count 1, 2, put your hook in, yarn over and pull up a loop. You've got 2 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through both loops. And we're going to do that in every chain along the row. So find your next chain, put your hook in, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through both loops. Keep going, putting in a single crochet in every chain along the row. There we go, that's row 1. And if you want to make sure that the edges stay straight on your ribbing, just count your stitches and always make sure that you have 8 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and this one tucked in the corner, that's 8. If you've always got 8 stitches on every row, your ribbing edges will stay straight. Okay, so at the beginning of every row, we're always going to chain 1. So chain 1 and turn your work. Now for the ribbing effect, we need to work into the back loop only. So if I just show you here, you have your turning chain, which we're not going to work into that one. We're always going to work into this second one. And we're going to work, there's this loop here and this loop here of the stitch. We're going to work into the back loop only. So, put your hook back in. And again, don't work into this turning chain, work into the next one, into that back loop only. Yarn over and pull up a loop. 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through both loops. And again into the next stitch, into the back loop only. I want to do this so you can see what I'm doing. There you go, into that back loop, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through both loops. And keep going along your row, single crochet into the back loop only of each and every stitch. It's a little bit fiddly when you're starting out because there's not much material to hold on to, but hang in there. It gets easier as it gets longer. There we go, and if you wanted to again, count your stitches to make sure you have 8 stitches. But this is how we're going to continue to do the ribbing. So chain 1, turn your work, and have a look here again. Don't work into your turning chain, work into the next one, into the back loop, and make your single crochet, and the same again as the last row, single crochet into the back loop of every stitch along your row. And don't forget this very last stitch. Sometimes it can be a little bit hidden, tucked under your turning chain. So there you go, and you can start to see the ribbing starting to take shape. So carry on making this single crochet into the back loop only and keep going until your ribbing length is 17 inches. Now, if you want a larger, a looser fit to your hat, you could go to 18 inches, but this ribbing will stretch. So 17 inches is fine. So keep going, pause this video, make your single crochet stitches into the back loop only, remembering to count 8 stitches in the row, and I'll meet you when your ribbing is 17 inches long. So here is your ribbing band, and this one measures 17 inches. If you just want to check the measurement around your head, it's not going to meet completely. You want it to stretch a little bit so it's snug to the head. If you did want to add a few more rows for a looser fit, then carry on and do that. But if you're ready to continue with the hat, we will do so now. So what we need to do is sew these two ends together. So I've got I haven't finished off here. I've got my loop inner stitch marker on the top right hand side, and just bring those two ends together. Just like that. And you can take your stitch marker out now. And what we're going to do is use a slip stitch to sew the ends together. So pop your hook back into your loop, and what we're going to do, I'll bring the camera in slightly. So first of all, bring your working yarn round to the back and place your hook in to the top corner stitch just like that. And then on the other side, push your hook through the corner stitch on the other side. Then bring yarn over and slip through all of your stitches and the loop. And we're going to do this all the way along. So find your next stitch, which is here. Push your hook through both legs of that stitch. Find your next stitch on the back panel. Push it through there. Yarn over and pull your hook through all of those stitches and the loop. So work your way all the way along . slip stitching in each stitch. Making sure these edges are aligned together. And then when you've got to the end, just pop one in the very corner stitch. There we go. And then there's your, turn your ribbing inside out. And you've got your nice ribbing for your hat. So, what we're going to do for round 1 is place a single crochet into each stitch along the top of every row. So chain 1, and you'll see a little stitch, one here, one here, one here, one here. We're going to put a single crochet in the top of each one. So single crochet, you can see here that one goes in there. You kind of have to eyeball it a little bit. It doesn't have to be exact. So we're going to do that all the way around. What I would suggest is place a stitch marker where you started, because it's not always obvious when you've got round all the way around. So continue to make your single crochet stitches all the way around as evenly as you possibly can. And what we're doing here is we're making, as you can see, a row of stitches that we can start working into, because here it's not as easy. So that's what we're creating. It's a sort of a foundation row, if you like, of single crochet stitches all the way around. So pause the video here and I will meet you when you've got back around to your stitch marker. So when you've made your way with your single crochet stitches all the way back around to your stitch marker, take out your stitch marker and then just place a slip stitch into that very first single crochet stitch that you did at the very beginning. Hook in, yarn over, pull through and pull through. Okay, now it's up to you how you want to do your colour scheme, but I'm going to change colour here. I'm going to go for the cream colour. You can continue in the green or the ribbing colour if you like. But what I'm going to do is actually finish off this colour. So yarn over, pull through some wool, enough so that you can sew in your ends, and then grab your scissors and just snip off your yarn, and then just pull that through, and we've snugged that down. Okay, so we're going to attach our second colour, and I'm going for the cream. And to attach your next colour, it's quite simple. You make a slip knot, just like that. Find where you want to attach your colour, and I'm going to do mine in the, let me just have a look, in the stitch just before we've finished off the last one. So I'm going to put the hook in here, then I'm going to attach the slip knot, tighten that up and pull that through, just like that. Then you've attached your next colour. So what we're going to do is round 2. I'm going to start with chain 2, 1, 2, and we're going to make a double crochet in every stitch all the way around the hat. So we're going to start with the very first stitch so there is no gap. So yarn over, find, it's almost the same stitch, it's the one just after where we finished off here. If you can see, I'm going to put my hook straight in there, yarn over, pull up a loop, then yarn over, pull through 2, then a yarn over, pull through 2. Okay. And in the very next stitch, place another double crochet. Okay. And find your next stitch, which is your single crochet stitches that we did all the way around. So yarn over, put your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, find your next single crochet. If you're not sure, just tip your work up like that, and you'll see the next one is just here. We've worked into this one, next one's here. And make your double crochet. So continue like this all the way around row 2, putting in a double crochet in every stitch, every single stitch, every single crochet stitch that you made from the row below, in every single one. So pause the video here, keep going with your double crochet stitches in each and every stitch, and I'll meet you when we've come to the end of this round. So we're just coming up to the end of this round. I'm putting my last stitch into that last single crochet from the row below. And to make sure there's no gaps when we come to the end of the row, instead of slip stitching into the chain 2, I'm going to slip stitch. You want to slip stitch into the top of that very first double crochet stitch that you made. Just like that. Hook through, pull through your yarn and pull through the yarn again, and you'll see that it creates, there's no obvious gaps happening. Okay, so now again you can do your colour sequence however you like, but I'm going to do 2 rows of each colour. So first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to place a stitch marker in here just to help me see when I've become around again. So for the next row, we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and quite simply, you're going to place 1 double crochet stitch in each and every stitch all the way around. So yarn over, and starting with this very first one here, so there's no gaps, hook in, make your double crochet, so there's no big gaps happening. Yarn over, hook into the next stitch, make your double crochet, and continue all the way around. With your double crochet stitches in each and every stitch. So pause the video here, and I'll meet you when you're approaching your stitch marker, and I'll show you how to change colour again. Okay, we are back around to the stitch marker. So we don't place a stitch in here because the chain 2 covers that one. So finish, this will be the last stitch of that round. Take out your stitch marker and again, so there's no big gaps, we're not going to slip stitch into the top of the chain 2. Go along to your very first double crochet stitch here and place your hook into the top of there, yarn over, pull through and pull through, and that just makes the stitches nice and even with no big gaps happening. Okay, so I'm finishing off this colour now and changing to another one. So I'll just quickly show you again how we do that. So to finish off, yarn over and pull through some wool. grab your scissors and leaving a tail so you can sew in your ends. Snip that off and pull that through. Just snug that down nice and tight. So bring in your next colour. Mine is, I found this beautiful kind of dusky pink. I'm going to use this. So to join, I'll show you again how to join your colours. So grab your yarn and again leaving enough wool to sew in the ends, make a slip knot. Okay, and then pick up your work and in the stitch just before we tied off there, we're going to place a hook in the top of that stitch there, just like that. Then bring in your slip knot and place the slip knot onto your hook. Always get a bit tangled with the ends here. If you find it easier, sew in your ends after each round. Then you won't be doing this like I am, working around all your ends. Excuse me. Right, you've got your slip knot on your hook and the hook is through one of the stitches. Then just gently pull that through. And there you've joined your next colour. So for this round, we're doing the same again. We're going to chain 2 and we're going to place a double crochet into every stitch around the row. So yarn over, pull up a loop, pull through 2, pull through 2 and continue in your new colour, putting your double crochet stitches in each and every stitch around your hat. There we go. So we're going to do another 2 rounds in this colour and then change colour again and do another 2 rounds in the next colour. Obviously you can do whatever colour sequence you like. You could make the whole hat in one colour or alternating in 2 colours. Grey and white, or pink and cream, whatever your heart's desire for the colour sequence. But this is now the pattern all the way up the hat, is double crochet stitches all the way around for 2, well, I'm doing for 2 rows. And when you come to do your second row of the colour, don't forget to put your stitch marker in so you know when you've finished doing your round. So continue in this way, doing your double crochet for 2 rounds, changing colour or however you would like to do your colour sequence. And you want the length of your hat. Now we're doing a slouchy beanie, so we want a nice long length, and I tend to do mine really nice and slouchy. So I always do mine, so they're approximately 12 inches long that way. So you want to go that way until your hat measures approximately 12 inches. If you want your beanie to have less slouch to it, then you make it shorter. So the longer the hat, the more kind of slouch you have at the back of the hat. 10 inches is a good length too, not quite so slouchy, but I'm going to go ahead and do mine until it measures 12 inches. So pause this video and I will meet you when you've finished the height of your hat, and I'll show you how to join up the top. And here is your hat after you've done row after row, and this one measures approximately 12 inches, and we're just coming up to the end of my last round. And to finish off, we slip stitch as normal into the top of that first double crochet stitch and slip stitch. And we've finished with the whole hat. So we yarn over, pull up some wool, and snip that off. And you want to make sure you've got some, keep this one because we're going to use the same colour as the top of your hat to join the top of the hat. Pull that through and snug it down, and there's a little bit of a seam. It's not too bad. Generally, there is your hat. Now, what I would recommend at this point is to sew in your ends. And depending on the amount of times you've changed colour, I'm turning the hat inside out here, generally on the seam side, all down this where we started and finished each round, you're going to have all this array of ends to sew in. Don't worry, it doesn't take as long as you think. A lot of the times when we're crocheting, we see all the ends, and it really just takes just a little bit of patience, and the fact that they're all along the same line does help. But I'll just quickly show you all you need to do. Thread the yarn onto your darning needle and just make sure that you're sewing the end in. So that's the green thread. I'm going to sew that in, weaving in and out of a couple of stitches. Then I usually go back, so I've worked downwards, then I'm coming back up and sort of double backing like that. And then snip off the excess yarn. So that's weaved in nicely so you can't see it. So we'll work our way up the hat. So we've got the pink one and the green one. So with the pink, The cream one you will work down into the cream, and then the pink, thread your needle and just work up through one of the double crochet stitches, just like that. It'll just look like part of the stitch. Then double back, there we go. And then snip off as close as you can to the hat. Okay, so I'm going to continue to weave in all these ends. So pause the video here, weave in your ends, and then we'll make our way and join the top of the hat. So here we are, we've finished sewing in all the ends, and now we're going to cinch in the top of the hat. We're going to keep the hat inside out to do this. So grab whatever colour yarn you would like. I'm going for the same colour as the last row that I did on the hat, and I'm going to get a nice long piece of wool here, about a metre and a half. I always want to make sure I've got more than enough wool rather than not enough. So I've got plenty, a metre and a half of wool. Okay, so grab your crochet hook and one end of your wool and put your hook into the very, if you can see what I'm doing here, the very top stitch of your hat. Hook the wool over your crochet hook and pull it through and tie it in a knot to secure it. If you want, I'm doing an overhand knot, but I'm going through twice just to make sure it's nice and secure. Now, on the other end of your length of wool here, pop on your darning needle. And what we're going to do is we're going to weave in and out of that top stitch every 2 or 3 stitches. So there's in one, but don't pull it tight. Just leave it nice and loose. Just like that, just as loose as that. This is why we needed a longer piece of wool. And then 2 or 3 stitches later, come back from underneath and back up. And we're going to do this all the way around the hat. One's going up. And then back down. Okay, so carry on like this, weaving your wool every couple of stitches in and out, all the way around your hat. Pause the video here and I'll meet you when you've gone all the way around your hat. So I'm all the way back around to that first stitch, and I've made sure that my last one is coming outwards. So what we need to do now, and you can take your darning needle off at this point. I'm just gonna flip the hat so the top is facing me. And what you need to do is I think I've got all this in camera. Yeah. Very gently start to pull the wool, and it's going to start to cinch the top of the hat together. You're pulling on that, the wool that's left, and it will slowly. Take your time, do it nice and gently because we don't want the wool to snap. And it's going to slowly, all these stitches, you can probably see them moving, are slowly starting to pull the top of the hat together. There we go, nice and slowly. Okay, now don't pull it too tight. You don't want to snap your wool, but just nice and snug. So it's all pulled together, but you're going to have, it's not completely closed here, but that's fine. We're going to reattach our darning needle and we're going to sew again around that circle. So reattach your darning needle, pull that tight, and then sew, put your needle in and sew across. And pull, and then literally just start closing up that hole, working your way through and around the circle. I'm going to just do an underneath and through that gap. And pull. And already that hole is pretty much nicely pulled together. So what I'm going to do now is just weave the wool through one more time. So I feel that's fairly secure. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to push the wool through to the right side of the hat. So you may want to put your hand inside the hat just to be careful not to stab yourself. Push that through and start to bring the hat the right way around, bringing that wool through. Okay. So here's your hat with the top all cinched in. So really we just need to finish off these ends. And here is the end that you attached your yarn, and I am actually going to tie a knot in there. So those two ends are nice and secure. Now what you can do now is carry on sewing through the middle here, making sure that the top is nicely snug together. It's, as you can see, it's pretty much done. So you can just finish off by weaving your needle through one more time. Then put your needle back through that loop. Then snug that down nice and tight, and then weave in the end. And then to finish, just so it's nice and tidy, put your wool back through to the inside of the hat so that you can weave in your end. So the end's being weaved in to the inside of the hat. I hope that's kind of clear how I've explained it. So I'm going to snip that off. And you'll see there's another end to sew in on the inside. Just pull that loop through and then sew in your end. Okay, but basically there is your slouchy beanie. I'll bring the camera out so you can see it properly. And there you go, there is your finished, very colourful slouchy beanie, perfect for spring. So many colours involved in this one, it will go with anything. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, there's plenty of crochet content for you. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and comment below on what colours you would make your beanie in. So happy crocheting, and I'll see you next time.